Hey everyone, out on the trail. Really lovely day. It's really still. The days are really becoming shorter now. Here in the UK, the clocks have just fallen back 1 hour, and we're about to approach Halloween, or Samhain, Samhain. Um, and I got asked a really interesting question. With all that I do, I got asked, do I believe in ghosts? And I think there is a huge difference in the kind of definition to what we would perceive as ghosts and what we kind of know as spirit. Um, but I really wanted to share with you a real life ghost story, um, and a little bit about the tradition and how kind of Halloween has become what it is and where it's come from, and some of the kind of concepts or ideas around Samhain. Um, so Samhain is kind of originates in the Celtic calendar. This time of year, as the days become shorter, it's known as the dark part of the year, um, where the days are a lot shorter, the nights are a lot longer, so there's kind of sense of more darkness than there is light. And it was a time that traditionally you would have almost taken stock. The word of taking stock, kind of comes from this kind of time of the year where you would absolutely take stock of your cattle. And also I kind of feel that, as we begin to almost withdraw, we almost like step back from the world, with almost hibernate, almost kind of go into our homes, spend more time indoors. The days are shorter, we take this inner journey, and I kind of feel, naturally we begin to take stock of the year. Even for us, with the adventuring, the adventures are a lot closer to home. The days are shorter, we're less out there in the world. We're taking shorter adventures that are absolutely closer to home, and we spend more time around log fires, around wood burners, sharing the experiences of the summer and sharing the stories of the adventures we've had. And I absolutely love that. You can't beat sharing time with people around a wood burner or log fire, sharing all the adventures you've had over the year, breaking bread, sharing food. You just can't beat that. So there's this kind of withdrawing, almost drawing back to the hearth, back to the centre, back to home. And in doing so, we take this inner journey and we literally take stock. But where that's come from is taking stock of the animals that would not make it through the winter, and those animals were slaughtered to feed the family, and to absolutely celebrate life. And in doing so, you would also honour the ancestors, honour those that have come before you. And also traditionally lay a place at the table for them to be honoured. Really lovely idea, really lovely concept. And you've got the jack-o'-lanterns, which were, because the veils are so thin at this time. And I think, if you kind of look, as we're kind of stepping into the shorter days, there's more darkness. We are very introspective during the winter time, and I think that naturally, more and more people have kind of psychic experiences. Why is that? I think some of it is literally where we begin to slow down and we begin to take that inner journey. We become more aware of ourselves, we become more aware of what's going on. We're literally slowing down. I think that's a part of it. But as I said, we're gonna share a real life ghost story, maybe a couple. But I want to take you back to my first initial trip to Scotland, to the Cairngorm Mountains, 26 years ago, roundabout now. And I've never been up into the Cairngorms. I've never done anything on that scale of adventuring before, and it was a solo trip. And I've been up in the mountains for a little while now, and you kind of get into this kind of space where you're spending so much time alone. You know, as I shared before, you really do process a lot of what's going on, and I know that that was the absolute catalyst to be able to open me up to be able to kind of do the work I do today. You know, when you're kind of immersed so deeply into that sort of landscape, that sort of terrain, that sort of wilderness, you absolutely by default take an inner journey, and you begin to kind of open yourself up. You begin to notice what's going on around you a lot more. I went into that experience one person, come back another, but often, you know, I wouldn't see people for days upon days upon days. And I can remember, you know, waking up in the mountains in this bothy, and I absolutely love bothies. You know, they're most amazing places full of the most amazing kind of stories, and they're just full of rich tapestry, beautiful. And I woke up in this bothy, and I'm packing up my last of my kit outside, and there, up over the top of this kind of ridge, coming towards me, a person. I was like, amazing. You know, I haven't seen people for a few days, which is kind of very normal for that remote landscape. And I was kind of like mixed from really like happy to almost felt a little bit intrusive, because I've been in that kind of space alone for a while. And you kind of get to a place where you absolutely kind of really thrive in that, and you really enjoy it, and it's a real rare thing, to be honest with you, especially in this day and age, in this, you know, the way the world moves so fast nowadays. So approached me, introduced himself to me, and was telling me a little bit about himself. And then he kind of was saying to me, you know what, where are you off to next? And I kind of pointed in a vague direction and said, you know, I'm heading off this way. And then kind of continue to kind of, you know, chat and pack up the rest of my kit. And he become a little bit kind of, you know, really persistent about, you know, where I'm going, and said to me, you know, show me on the map. And I kind of half did, and he really insisted upon it, and I showed him, and I said, I think, you know, it can be done across there, and I pointed out across this heather, out across this kind of landscape. And this is where it gets really interesting. And I turned around and said, yeah, up over there, across there, I think you know, I can go off there, and I can follow that bearing on the map, and that'll take me to where I need to go. And he told me, he said, right, okay, you know, I want you to take, you know, 4 or 5 steps forwards. And we was on this path, and the bothy was behind us. We were on this path, and I took about 3 steps forwards, you know, fairly decent strides, suddenly sunk completely, up firstly up to my knees, and then very quickly just before my waist. What you had was bogland heather on top of what was peat, and underneath that was just pure spring water, and you could not see it. It looked solid, but it absolutely wasn't. And very quickly, I started to kind of sink down to my knees, sink down to my waist, and literally it was heather on top of peat on top of spring water, and I got cold very quickly, and the more I kind of struggled to get out, which happened very quickly, or within microseconds, the more hard it was to get out, the more deeper I went, the more colder I got. And I was absolutely horrified. You know, it completely took me by surprise. You know, it happened really quickly within microseconds. And I really kind of struggled to get one leg out. You know, it almost like it did. I'm not saying it's quicksand, but it sucks you in. And importantly, it was freezing cold. With that, he reached for me, he grabbed hold of me, he pulled me out. I went to explain, I went to say sorry, and he just went, shh, don't say a word. Just take care of yourself, get out of those wet clothes. In doing so, as I did, he made a brew. And we sat there in complete silence. You know, nothing needed to be said. I had learned a very powerful lesson, one that I won't ever forget, and for many reasons, and you'll see why. And we sat there, we drank the brew. I had a Mars bar that was given to me, and I felt so much better, shaken up and really reflective, but a lot better. And which he said to me, you know what, just stick to the path. We packed up, and he said, you know what, nothing needs to be said. It's going to be a lesson you're going to remember, and you're going to stick to for a very long time. And we packed up and we headed off, and he was heading in the same direction. And he was telling me a little bit about his life, that he was a school teacher, and he would come up every summer during the school holidays and just kind of lose himself in the mountains. And we're walking along together, and now he's a really tall guy, a lot taller than me, and his stride was a lot longer, and he was a lot fitter. And little by little, the gap between us got wider and wider, and it got wider, to the point there was, you know, quite a gap between us. And he ended up reaching the top of the ridge, and the path went over onto this ridge line and kind of dropped down the other side. And he got to the top of the ridge, and shouted down to me, stick to the path, and waved. And he went over top of the ridge, and I waved back, put my thumbs up. And it took me probably about 5 or 6 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, to get to the top of the ridge, but not a long time. You know, a fair distance in walking time, but not a long time. And got to the top of the ridge, and I looked down, and it drops down into a valley, and all the sides of the trees literally just open up. You know, it's just kind of really clean. You can see this, you know, huge waterfall that went into a river, and then kind of the sides of the valley stretch up into the mountains, and it's just pine forest, but high up, really high up. And I looked, and I was bewildered because I couldn't see him. And I'm like, that's really odd and strange. You know, he's only 5 minutes in front of me. Where the hell is he gone? So I grabbed the binos, and I'm looking, I can't spot anything. Right down in the distance, you could make out what looked to be a tiny croft, but it was a long way, but there was nothing in between that, nothing on the sides, and those trees were really high up the mountainside. And I'm like, that's really strange. So walking, and the best part of the whole day, to come down through this valley, down off the mountains, and down into this little croft. And as I approach this little croft, a dog starts barking. You know, perfect way of letting people know that there's someone around. And this guy comes out, old fella in overalls, and you know, it's his croft, and he says hello to me, and we kind of make conversation, and really warm and welcoming. The Scots are beautiful people. And I asked him, and I said to him, you know, I've been walking the best part of the day. Has someone come through here? Has anyone come through here? And he looks at me, and he had a kind of glint in his eye, and he smiles and says, no. And I described what happened, started to describe what happened. He says to me, so you've seen him? You've seen him? And the story goes that there's a man that appears up into the mountains to those that are lost or those that are in trouble. And the story goes that it was a school teacher who had fallen off a dam wall and drowned. Now the strange thing is, when we were talking together, he started to tell me about an accident he had happened. He had had an accident he had had a few summers before, where he got stuck between a ram and some kids, and he got stuck between them, and the ram just kind of bolted, and he lost his footing, and he fell off a dam wall, and he woke up a little way off down the river. Now the odd thing about this is I physically saw that person. I also, on returning from Scotland, started sitting in a development circle, and I had an experience where someone turned to me and turned around and said to me, "Who's Frank?" and something to do with a mountain. Frank was the school teacher. Still to this day I cannot get my head around that experience, but as it was Samhain, as it was Halloween, I thought it would be really great to share it with you. Thanks for listening. The thing that I've taken from that is the innate does watch over us at times, and the most strangest and the most wonderful things can happen. Take care guys, happy Halloween, happy Samhain.